Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So just like I promised, I am going to read through that visual snow forum that Bryan posted quite often in, and when he was like 14, 15 years old. Well, he signed up when he was like 14. Yeah, so basically when he was a younger teenager, he was posting a bunch in it. So let me actually first start off by reading you what visual snow is, in case if some of you guys are not familiar. Okay, so we'll start off explaining what visual snow is. So visual snow syndrome. If you see snow or static like the picture of an old television all the time, you may have visual snow syndrome. Many people who have it also have migraine headaches. There's no standard treatment. What is visual snow syndrome? Visual snow syndrome is a disorder that causes you to see static. Some describe it as seeing things in a snow globe that has been shaken up. There are flickering dots throughout the field of vision. The snow that you see may be colorful, black and white, transparent, or may flash. Scientists aren't sure why visual snow syndrome happens. It may be related to excitability in the occipital lobes of the brain where images are processed. Many people have visual snow syndrome as a chronic condition. Many people may also have migraines and anxiety, but they are distinct processes. Visual snow syndrome isn't a common condition. It's estimated to affect about 2% to 3% of the people in the world. What are the symptoms of visual snow syndrome? Visual snow syndrome symptoms may include visual symptoms such as seeing snow or static everywhere you look, whether your eyes are open or closed. Seeing the dotted images with closed or open eyes is another unique feature of visual snow syndrome. Seeing objects trailing after the actual image is gone. This is called palinopsia. Being sensitive to light, which is called photophobia. Having difficulty seeing at night, nyctalopia. Seeing images within your own eye, a condition known as entoptic phenomena. It's what happens when you close your eyes but you can see things like lights. Patients with visual snow syndrome may also experience ringing or buzzing in the ears, known as tinnitus, feeling anxious, depressed, or irritable, having difficulty concentrating or feeling confused or like you have brain fog, having trouble sleeping, insomnia, frequent migraines with aura. However, this has to be distinct because the aura can't be the underlying reason for their visual symptoms. Feeling dizzy or nauseated, feeling like you're not really connected to yourself, depersonalization, having vertigo. What causes visual snow syndrome? Researchers don't know the exact cause of visual snow syndrome. Some scientists think that parts of your brain could be hyperactive. Are there risk factors for visual snow syndrome? In some cases, providers have found that visual snow syndrome is diagnosed in people with other disorders, including migraine with and without aura, anxiety. How is visual snow syndrome diagnosed? Your healthcare provider will begin any visit by going over your medical history and asking about your symptoms. They may then perform a physical examination. Your eye care provider will perform a thorough eye exam. Diagnosing visual snow syndrome requires excluding other diseases. Your provider may order imaging or other tests to do this. You may need to see a neurologist as well as an ophthalmologist. It would be ideal to see a neuro-ophthalmologist. Your visual symptoms can't be the same as those of migraine aura. They also can't be due to another disease, nor to drugs that would cause the snow to appear. Diagnosing visual snow syndrome requires meeting the Puletta diagnostic criteria, including the necessary duration of having experienced these symptoms for at least 3 months. While many people have symptoms from the beginning of their lives, others find the symptoms start in their teens or 20s. You must also have at least 2 of these 4 visual symptoms as well. Seeing after images or trailing images, palinopsia, seeing color or light images within your eye like floaters and flashes, entoptic phenomena, being sensitive to light, photophobia, having trouble seeing at night, nyctalopia. How's visual snow syndrome treated? There's no standard treatment for visual snow syndrome, but providers are continuing to research the use of some medications. Your provider may suggest medications to treat psychiatric symptoms and provide relief for some of your issues. Doing this may offer you a better quality of life. So there's certain medications they're trying, like anti-seizure medication, antidepressant. So they're testing different ones. So can visual snow just go away? It says visual snow syndrome may just go away on its own after a period of time. In other cases, visual snow syndrome can worsen, become more prominent. So if you want to learn any more about it, you can look it up. But that is what Bryan talks about having in this. So I just thought it'd be easier, at least for you guys to understand what he's talking about in these forums. Okay, let's start reading the forum. So he is XR those with visual snow. You could see the picture. It looks like him. From what I've looked into, I'm 99% sure that this is him. Okay, so we're going to go through everything that he responded to. So on November 6th, 2009, so he says, "What is this? I keep waking up with severe VS as all I can see. And every time it goes away slightly, but now it is sort of the same. All I can see is after images and VS. WTF. This is making vision worse. This can't just keep up without a medical reason." And then Dago responds, "Well, obviously there's a medical reason. We just don't know what it is. How long did it mostly took to go away when you woke up? Hours or minutes or seconds?" And he says, "Usually 30 seconds. It got better now from that, so it took like 4 hours this time. LOL." And then somebody, "Can you see what I see?" says, "Yeah, this is the most annoying part of waking up. My vision usually goes back to normal within a few seconds, though. The scotomas are pretty freaky too, but those are rare." And then Snowy Mike says, "I see all types of things when I first get up. Goes away quickly." Okay, so let's go to his next one. So November 2009 again, he says, "Sometimes newly, so it will probably increase. In my peripheral vision, mostly left, it seems to flicker. Something major is wrong with me." And then Stacking Can says, "I've had that flickering, like a strobe light is going off. And when I look towards it, the flickering just moves to my peripheral. I was told by my eye doc that when you have flickering lights in your peripheral, you're in trouble. Is this true? I was only at the eye doc about 2 months ago and everything was fine." And then Detective says, "I constantly have flickering in my peripherals. Very upsetting. No answers." You Are Not Alone says, "I see flickering in my peripheral vision too. Shrug. It's pretty mild though. Sometimes it's at the top and I think it's a fan going around, but then I look up and there isn't a fan. Thought I was going insane before I knew other people had visuals." Stacking Can says, "LOL, that's funny. I was in a bathroom when I realized it and I thought it was the light flickering. Alas, it wasn't." And then Brian says, "It seems to be in my left eye peripheral, flickering like when you look at the sky, but it is ignorable. I thought I was losing the vision, but nah, it's just the flickering, LOL." Okay, so this is November 7th, so the next day, 2009, he says, "When you look up at the sky and it is severe, do you ever experience that in your peripheral vision? I noticed it and I thought I had some light in the vision, but it was just the snow flickering like usual." And then nobody responded to that. And then November 8th, so then the next day he says, "It is 24/7, but I feel like it is deteriorating my peripheral vision. It started after I woke up with severe VS. I think that maybe there is a pill that will at least stop this stupid side VS. It is almost like there is a film with like a black shade with flickering over my eye. And it is not even there in my right eye periphery. Please help because this is not just VS. It is like a flickering black bit, like when you look at the sky. I was forgetting about it and not worried, but now it's new. So WTF." So Detective says, "Have you seen an ophthalmologist or neuro-ophthalmologist? If so, what did they say?" And then somebody else responds to XR. So remember, XR is Brian. XR, those with visual snow, that's him right there. So Trey Taylor says, "Try not to stress about it. I know it's easier said than done when it's your eyes and you can't escape from it for even a second of the day, but it will help you a lot if you just tell yourself that everything is going to be okay. I know what you're going through sucks real bad, but you just have to talk yourself into believing that it's not as bad as it seems. Your vision might not be better, but at least you will feel much better. I have been having crazy flickering in my side vision also for about 12 months now. Do you have floaters, flashers, or negative after images? Have you had a field vision test?" Sapaloo Susie says, "Whenever you have a new scary symptom, it is a good reason to call your doctor. Get your eyes checked out and make sure everything is okay." Gabba says, "I got flickering. Does it help if you wear sunglasses often?" Vulture says, "From your title, it sounds like a migraine." And now we have November 9th. So the same day as his last post, Brian says, "On the left side of your peripheral vision, there is like a point where you pass something and it gets deformed slightly as if something flickers over it. I can feel this somehow in my eye, but I will be seeing a neurologist in 4 days. And since I saw an eye doctor a month ago and no eye condition develops like that, don't tell me to see one. Yes, I saw an ophthalmologist and an optometrist, or WE. Detective says, "It could be that you are just aware of your blind spot. Everyone has one. I can see mine, but my husband can't see his. So I guess it depends how special you are. Do an internet search on blind spots and see if that is what you are asking. So this one is January 15th, 2011. So this is 2 years later now, and this is Bryan posting XR. So he says, I have had VS since September 21st of 2009. Since then, I have changed, mainly from the anxiety and sense of derealization and hopelessness. Today, I felt a deep heartbeat in my head, one that felt through my eyes and all over my head. I get this a lot, but never think about it. At times when I lay down and then get up for something, I get this feeling in my head that is weird, and then I see this bright white version of VS. I also feel the beat. My theory is that VS seems to be migraine related, but in reality, it is just a weird thing that occurs for some people where their arteries and blood vessels in one's head are inflamed for a large amount of time. I'm sure no MRI would pick up slight inflammation from the veins, arteries that pump through our heads. I always have this weird feeling in my head, and to me, it feels like something inflamed in my head. We need to try to figure out a way to stop the inflammation. I think that anxiety causes VS. Why do you think migraine pills don't work for VS? Obviously, because we don't have inflamed parts of our brain. We have inflamed blood vessels, veins, whatever you want to call them. Memi says, keep following up with this. Thanks. Rainy Days says, I think you are right. The week before I developed VS, I was getting really dizzy upon standing for a few seconds and also seeing my pulse and my vision. The dizziness has subsided somewhat, but I still get the pulse. Seems to have more when I exert myself so strangely enough when I'm driving and waiting at traffic lights. And then Bryan says, I am going to talk to a good neurologist about this, one that is very open-minded. I think this really is the cause. And to Rainy Days, yes, when I exert myself, I get the pulse vision too. And other topics, people have said that they felt weird feeling in their jaw, chest with no explanation. While it might be the arteries being inflamed, it could hurt very bad. This seriously could be an issue that is undiagnosed. Rainy Day says, please let us know how you get on. Glad you're able to find a neurologist who is good and open-minded. Not many of them about. And then C. Mandan says, I do get this feeling in my head a lot when I exercise. It's like I can feel the blood struggling to get through my head. I can hear a thick heartbeat in my head. Oh, actually, as well, the left artery on my neck twitches sometimes, and other people can see it. That and a pulsating in my temples. I'm scared I'm going to get a stroke sometimes. As well, the symptoms described above, I get really bad when I have migraine, like headache in the back of my head. So Bryan says, I believe it to have its nerve roots as well, its vein roots, arteries. It seems that this disease that we all have is some type of inflammatory disease. In this case, it would be easily treatable. Okay, so January 18th, a Sunshine says, and so this is basically the same, under the same thread here as we were just reading, and Sunshine says, and how could you diagnose it? The only thing that came abnormal in all the tests I have done is an artery of the right part of my neck that is not going where it is supposed to be. I do feel heartbeats in my eyes and in the back of my head too. And then Bryan says, so this is January 18th, 2011, Bryan says, honestly, the test would not pick up inflammation of little veins. They could detect an artery though, but not always. It is really diagnosed by inflamed veins, arteries, and if you have these symptoms, then you know you have the disease. When I got an optical test done on me, it was shown that my nerves and veins were inflamed for no reason, causing something that looked like optic neuritis but wasn't. It is a tricky disease. How can you explain the fact that all of us can feel the heartbeats all over our bodies and it is only people who suffer from VS? It is not irony. It is simply that we all have the condition as far as I'm concerned. Moof says, completely agree. The root cause is unknown, but all of our symptoms seem to stem from interference with proper blood flow to the head, brain. It makes the most sense by far that I've looked into. See, Mandan says, I don't have that. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure more than less don't have it about inflammation. Wouldn't anti-inflammatories help? Matt says, I get the pulse feeling in the back of my head many times as well. I also experience the pulse sensation occasionally in my eyes too. Could be onto something. Ian KC says XR, so he's talking to Bryan. He says, XR, you are incorrect in your statement that migraine pills don't work for VS. I know of a couple people on this forum who have said that Depakote helped to reduce their visual problems, and another who said that Pizotifen helped their symptoms. And X44 says, has anyone had help with reducing the thudding and heartbeat in the back of the head? Okay, so February 28th, somebody named JR991 says, I'm not saying that this is the cause of our problems, but it could be the reason for some of our symptoms. Maybe some of you can relate to this, maybe not, but for me, my problem started about 7 years ago with a certain set of symptoms closely related to a vestibular disorder. It wasn't until last year that I started developing eye floaters after images and tinnitus after a round of sinus colds and dizziness for months. The vestibular system includes the parts of the inner ear and brain that help control balance and eye movements. If the system is damaged by disease, aging, or injury, vestibular disorders can result. Symptoms may include vertigo, dizziness, imbalance, among others listed here. So here's a big list. I'm not going to read them all, but... And then Bryan says, so this is March 5th, 2011. Bryan says, well, any damage to this part of the brain will show up on an MRI. No damage with mine. Okay, so this is Bryan on April 21st, 2011. Bryan says, visual snow is caused by toxins in our body. These toxins range from yeast overgrowth, candida, all the way to fungus. Check out the link for candida. It has almost every VS symptom except the term VS. It says migraines, which are the same thing as VS in my experience. They go hand in hand. Tell me how every test known to man cannot show what's wrong with us. We just see stuff. The truth is, there is no test for our toxins. We just need to rid ourselves of them. Visual snow can also be caused by chemical changes. I experienced visual snow for the first time when just waking up. It went away for 2 weeks. Then I went back to drinking coffee and going on the PC all day, and it came back. I believe I caused my visual snow by too much toxins from the sweetener I used, and also too much caffeine chemicals. I also lived in a moldy house. When something is happening in your brain that shouldn't, chemicals are being released that shouldn't. These chemicals are released because we have toxins that our body doesn't want. It is going haywire. If there is no cause of our body releasing chemicals, like a simple condition, then this is obviously the answer. This detox diet has been used to cure many diseases and reduce the effects of cancer and diabetes greatly. My friend went from 8 shots to 1 shot of insulin. He stopped, but he could have continued it even more. How to do this diet. And then he puts a link, and then don't go to the doctor for a detox. They rip you off. We are lucky as people with VS. I have had all the tests done. My neurotransmitters are fine. My brain is healthy. It's just toxins. Video to watch that explains reality. Let's see. Oh, the link doesn't. So that link that he posted, well, that would have been like 12 years ago. So the site can't be reached anymore. So hope they find a cure. Responds, that's basically paleo diet. That's the way I eat for about 2 years now, and I don't notice any changes on my symptoms. Wish it was that easy. And then Bryan says, no, there are certain things you can't eat on it that you probably ate. Trust me, you didn't. It isn't a paleo diet. I will find out the exact diet plan soon. My friend has it printed. I lost the sheet. So then he responds to, I hope they find a cure, the phrase where it says, that's basically paleo diet. He says, no, it's a detox diet. That's Bryan saying that. Okay, so Tranquility says, I have had athlete's foot in VS for as long as I can remember. The athlete's foot always stays dormant and then outbreaks very rarely. Since athlete's foot is a fungus, could that be the cause of my VS? I hope you're right, and if you are, I love you. Haha. Then Bryan says, well, your foot fungus and visual snow are both caused by toxins. Fungus, yeast. I have been tested for everything. I went to the doctor, and he said that everything I had was migraines, which is basically your brain reacting to some type of chemical change. Thus, it acts haywire. What causes these migraines? Toxins. I have some amazing sources. I know people who have experimented with this thing as much as possible. This is the cure. Then Tranquility says, what is the actual diet? I can't seem to find it in the links you sent. Bryan says, there is a printout that my friend has. I will get that and photocopy it and put it on the internet for you to see. I'll get it by tomorrow. So this is April 21st. He wrote that. And then April 22nd, he says, off for tonight. See ya. Tranquility responds, okay, thank you, XR. I'm really finding this website, www.canandidafree.net, quite interesting. I read the symptoms and I have a bunch of them. I also read the author's story, and I think I'm going to order some Symbian probiotics and try it for myself. Taking probiotics is much easier than following the diet off of knowthecause.com. So I will probably get those probiotics, and I will keep you guys updated on its effects. I know for a fact that probiotics are good for you and safe to use. And then administrator wrote, just telling it like it is, Byron. I find myself torn between being glad knowing I'm not the only one and sad knowing it's not just me. Mammy, I agree with everything you said. Today's education system seems far removed from what I was subjected to. I am blown away at how hard my daughter's teachers try to focus on how she learns instead of why she can't. They have provided her with a dragon, actually speaking program so that she can keep up with the lessons while trying to puzzle out the nonsense rules that make up our English language and individualized attention based on the test score she gets orally compared to written. Being encouraged rather than being beaten probably ain't hurting her neither. And then Bryan responded, at first I always felt disconnected and not there. My reading also became difficult because it's as if I look through words. It's weird, like I can't see them right away. That got less, and I read way above average, so I am okay. With VS, I think deeper. I am a smart person, and anxiety makes you dumb, in my opinion, not VS. And then Bryan says, it hasn't affected my intelligence at all. I have not been able to spell the same way. I used to be a spelling bee champion. Now it is just average. So, and then Matt says, please post back the diet. I would be willing to try this. Bryan says, it wouldn't kill all the toxins though, Tranquility. You need to do the diet. This is Bryan again. He says, well, I am saying I sat in front of the PC and got unhealthy while drinking things that contain toxins. Candida is not the only thing I am talking about. Toxins are not alive, but they are in your body. That is all I'm saying. Something in your body is not supposed to be there, hence unwanted results. Vulture says, this kind of looks like an advertisement. And Bryan says, what's to lose? J.S. Smith says, yep, more power to the people that try this, but I don't feel like spending time on something that has little to no evidence. And then Bryan says, this book contains the phase 1 and 2 diets. Yeast and fungus are fed by sugar and starch. By not eating these things, your body will kill off all the things that your body doesn't need. As a matter of fact, by the first week, you will start getting sick with a fever. This is proof that the diet is kicking in. You will feel better within a couple weeks. What is to lose? Omega says, did you ever get earfulness, ear crackling? I believe your theory is very plausible. I will have more to write about it later. Going on a natural protocol this time around. Took diflucan over a week ago and it made me feel worse. I would not recommend it for people who are sensitive to drugs. A good balking agent like blue heron is good for the die-off effect. This is an excellent discussion. We should not be treating symptoms, the root cause instead. Throwing an antidepressant for migraines is a disgrace in my opinion, especially if the source is digestive in nature, metabolic dysfunction, liver overload. So Bryan says, the reason I say this is also because my doctor put me on every medication and it made me crazy and made my VS not even improved. I care about everyone here. I wouldn't tell you something unless I knew it was for sure. Omega, yes, I do actually. And then Matt says, a part of me thinks or hopes there could be something in this. However, for those of us who had VS for such a long time now, will find it very difficult to get rid of this yeast fungus problem if it is indeed that. 15 years for me and even longer for others. There are so many theories out there on what the cause of our problems are. Obviously, something like this could very well slip through the net as a cause, seeing as our eyes and MRI scans all come back fine. There has to be a chemical toxin link somewhere. I've also thought of a blood flow problem too. I'm no doctor, however, but going by what I've read since being here, I think chemical toxin and or blood flow problem could be close to the truth. The diet for this would be quite extreme, and I don't fancy losing too much weight. I'm not exactly a beast as it is. So it's April 22nd, 2011. Bryan says, I agree with the blood flow part. I actually made a thread about that before, but what causes this blood flow problem is still undiagnosed. In my head, after I exercise, my visual snow increases in intensity, and the vein in my head pumps so hard I feel it. I think our veins are slightly inflamed from toxins. Ethanol says, I know the cause, cure of visual snow. A bit of bold statement for something that has barely any factual data. So he's responding to Bryan's claim. So then Matt is responding to Bryan's comment where he says, I agree with the blood flow part. I actually made a thread about that before. Basically, what we just read that Bryan wrote. So Matt says, do you have bad circulation in your hands and feet? I notice my visual disturbances tend to flicker and pulsate in time with my heartbeat. The snow is unaffected by this, but I notice a shimmering in time with my heartbeat. I see you've linked the diet to an ebook in which we have to pay $27. If this is an advertisement, then please post us the full diet on here. Then Bryan says, okay, I'll buy it and post it here. Yeah, I have a circulation there too. mostly in the chest and head, though. Then he posts a link. Then Bryan says, I believe that the blood vessels are inflamed because of toxins. The only reason I have had everything tested. And Matt says, good man, there's so many scams out there. I get cold hands, cold feet, and often notice when I'm laying in bed, I can feel pulsing in my arms, necks, legs, feet, occasionally too with the heaviness in the back of my head too. It's definitely not normal to feel so much activity. This is an interesting link about the gut. And then Tranquility says, in my opinion, Candida.net seems pretty legit. Multiple products are mentioned, and the author doesn't even mention a complicated diet. He just says cut down on the sugars and take the probiotics as recommended. Then Bryan says, it isn't a scam. I have a whole bunch of people who did this, and it worked. I know them in real life, and humans don't need carbs to live, my friend. You won't starve. You really don't understand this. Please don't discourage me. I am not an idiot who falls for a scam. You do not need to buy anything from anyone. The site originally had the diet posted, but it removed it because publicity and possible lawsuits, because this is a dangerous diet to do unless you know what you're doing. Candida.net does not in any way try to sell you their own products. They try to show you what products to buy. Trust me, the cause of VS is fungus, and I will make blogs on this soon. Okay, so April 22nd, Bryan says, I agree with the blood flow part. I actually made a thread about that before. But what causes this blood flow problem? It is still undiagnosed. And in my head, after I exercise, my visual snow increases in intensity, and the vein in my head pumps so hard I feel it. I think our veins are slightly inflamed from toxins. Okay, so Ethanol says, really, we don't need carbs? None? Are you really ready to back up that statement? Not even complex carbs? Nothing? So are you going to get your energy from proteins and fats? The human brain can only use monosaccharides for respiration. Do you know how long that pathway is to make a protein and fat into a sugar? And then Bryan says, oh, you will get complex carbs on your diet. It is required to eat only certain fruits. Ethanol says, only fruits? What about vegetables? Yes, Ethanol, there are certain kinds you can and can't have. Actually, I will be taking all1.com base 30-day supply. There's just a couple links here that he shares. And then, so then he's responding to this 21st Rogue that asked, who do you know that this has worked for? When Bryan said that he knows a bunch of people that it worked for. So Bryan says, my friend's uncle, the one who introduced this to me, he had tumors on his stomach or lungs. I can't remember, but he took the diet for 2 years and they went away. He is an ex-Army Ranger and Green Beret with knowledge in the detox diet. But Bryan did say a whole bunch of people, and now he's only naming one. Anyway, Tranquility said, read the post that starts off as just wondering. And they share a link, and it says it's about how the creators of Symbian probiotics were actually the authors of CandidaFree.net, which is really disappointing because they said that their old customers introduced them to Symbian. It may still work, but the fact that they lied about it is disturbing. Okay, I just realized I was pronouncing Candida wrong. It's Candida, so I apologize, but I probably made some people crazy every time I said it, because there's just some people that it bothers people when you pronounce a word wrong. Okay, but I figured it out. So, where are we at? Okay, so it's in simple. So right here where Bryan says, yes, those sites are wrong, but they give you an idea of stuff you have. In simplicity, a detox diet will fix any fungus or candida problems you have, so you can't say what I am saying is false. I am doing it, and I will make a vlog, so don't worry. Tranquility says, I emailed the owners of CandidaFree.net, and this was the response. Hello, first of all, you do not identify yourself, and Mark and I are here for the sole purpose of providing support and guidance for people recovering with 3-lac and or Symbian. I don't know who you are, but I do know that you're not one of our customers. Regarding the patent on the formulation, check the dates and then reread our story. I started taking Symbian in 2007. Allison Cobb. So then Bryan says, okay, I denounce any relation to that site. I just posted it for you to see something that yeast overgrowth does as well as fungus. I will vlog the detox diet and you will see. And Omega says, XR, so which is Bryan, if you don't mind sharing, what are all your symptoms? I'm guessing you have not cured yourself yet on the diet. Or have you? Sorry, have not read through all the posts, so not sure. Okay, so April 22nd, this pattern says, sorry if I put this in the wrong place or something. I am new to the forum. I am 14, almost 15 years old, and I have most of the symptoms listed, recorded on this forum. But there's one symptom I have that gets the best of me. Every symptom I research can be found on Google or on here, but there's one exception. I see 2 blue circles. I can tell that there's one for each eye. They're both perfectly spaced apart and the exact same size. They change in color closer to the middle and turn kind of clearish. I can see them when I look up, left, right, or down, basically anywhere but straight forward. I can see right through them, but they look kind of, may sound weird, but the best way I can describe it, jello-ish. I'm honestly tired of explaining this to doctors because all of them give me this puzzled, confused look. They always tell me it's something stupid that it couldn't possibly be. I've learned to accept these symptoms and am actually blaming them on the unreal amount of chemicals produced in food. But the blue circles don't seem like a symptom that would be associated with that. Anyway, if you have any idea what it could be, even a clue, let me know. So Bryan responds to this. He says, I have the same exact thing. I actually have those and something else now. It seems like there are 3 silverish circles when I move my left eye to the far right. And if I think he's probably meaning look, if I look far left, I see one close to the end and one on the end. Weird stuff, man. So it seems like he has more trouble with his left eye, which somebody brought up in the live, which good thinking, good observation that maybe that's why Dylan's life was spared. Maybe he didn't see her because when he would be walking from Xana's room out, past Dylan out the sliding door, it would be to his left. Dylan would be on his left. So that could be why he probably didn't see her. So VS may have just saved Dylan's life. I'm not 100% sure if that's it, but it's interesting to think it could be. Anyway, so Pattern says, for real, kind of reassuring to know there's someone else that has it. And God forbid I get that. Ha, thanks. And then Bryan says, yes, I didn't know anyone had what I had either, LOL. For me, the silver flash circles on the far left have been there since the beginning almost, but to the far right, it developed over summer. And then Hagen Racing said, haha, I have it going on right now. It sucks. Pattern says, all my symptoms kind of develop over the summer. And I know, eh? Decum says, I think I have what you talk about too. If it is what you have, those circles are your blind spots. Look to the far right or left, close one eye and put your finger behind the blue dark spot of your eye opening. You might see your fingertip disappear. I opened a post here years ago about that and many others have this. It's like problem with the brain that doesn't complete the image where the blind spot like it should have. And then Bryan says, it seems to have relation to the angle your eyes are at. For me, it doesn't happen a lot, but only for split seconds at certain angles. Pattern says, no, Decum, I know what you're talking about. The thing is, with these, you can see right through them. They're not blind spots, they're blue. So Bryan says on April 22nd, 2011, all over on YouTube, I'm seeing comments that Xanax cures VS. Tranquility says, that could mean a relationship between the neurotransmitter serotonin and visual snow, which could make sense because most people that have visual snow also have anxiety, and serotonin plays an important role in anxiety. Let me ask you guys this. Does anyone here have visual snow but not anxiety? And iSphere says, nah, I've taken some Xanax and it didn't do anything to my VS. Need Help says, that would be truly great, but I don't think Xanax is a solution. It's a benzo and is similar to Klonopin. Klonopin hasn't done anything for my VS. Hope They Find a Cure says, I simply love Xanax. Try not to use it. I just do it when I'm really desperate because of the symptoms. They don't go away, but they stop to bother me after 2 or 3 days, and I barely notice them. I also get the same kind of effect with higher doses of valerian root, at least 2 or 3 times higher than usually recommended. So Ian Casey says, Xanax is the only drug to ever actually reduce my symptoms in any way, shape, or form. Is it a cure? No, but does it help? Yes. Then Bryan says, okay, I know that something as Xanax is not on a detox diet. I just was curious. And then Need Help says, Ian, can you describe how it has helped you with your symptoms? I'm curious. If I can get any relief, I will ask my doc for some. And then Samari Sarah says, kind of stupid question. Do you think that you can smoke cigs on a diet like this? And Bryan says, you can't. Matt says, look forward to this video showing us what to eat. Then Bryan says, why are you so spiteful about this diet that can possibly help you? God04 says, all my symptoms started a month ago, so it's still fresh in my mind, and I guess I can narrow down the cause of my symptoms to perhaps antibiotics. I had a simple conjunctivitis, and a few weeks into the treatment, I got all these weird symptoms. Amongst the regular symptoms you guys have, I also have nerve pain and itch. I did overdose on oral antibiotics quite a bit. Yeah, I know it's dumb of me, or maybe it's the antibiotic eye drops, but whatever. Probably the antibiotics killed off the good bacteria in my gut or something. And all these things happen to me. I'm in no way associated with the candida crap, but it might be true, but not really sure how detox diet works. Anyone can shed some light on that? And yeah, I do think it has something to do with vascular problems as well. I feel my veins twitching all over my body. Then Bryan says, yes, I am buying the book. I will talk about the diet and even print out the list of foods and whatnot. Thank you for being open-minded, which isn't hard to do when you have something as odd as VS. And then Matt says, he's responding to Bryan's comment to him where Bryan said, why are you so spiteful about this diet that can possibly help you? Matt says, what? You try and get us to buy an ebook, which is God knows how many dollars without any real evidence it's not another scam. Of course I'm skeptical, especially 6 pages on and you still have sidestepped posting this diet for the help of other VS sufferers. Thankfully, Omega has posted something constructive up. Why should I buy something you recommend when you don't stick to your word? I actually believe there is something in this. I really do. I wasn't being sarcastic in my response. It was genuine. I am grateful you posted this discussion up because it does seem like it could be a possible cause, but not many will take the step of buying a book on here from a single poster's claims. That's why I asked you to post the diet because it may encourage some of the members to actually try it out, and then we could reach some conclusions and get some positive results. Surely that would be for the benefit of all VS sufferers out there. That's not being spiteful, mate. Bryan says, how am I not living up to my word? There is something called shipping and handling, and I already said I would buy it. And then he responds to the Sarah talking about the Wellbutrin making her problems worse. He says, yes, if it got worse due to medicine, then there is a chemical imbalance due to them. If you do the diet, it will remove the trace of it, thus leading to chemical balance. Sarah says, sweet, hook me up. Where can I go to get pretty much a meal plan for dummies? This book is like $25, even on Amazon and eBay. Matt says, okay, admittedly, I thought it was an ebook, instant purchase and delivery download. I'll give you a chance, Exar, which is Bryan. However, the spiteful comment was uncalled for. I was just thinking about the good people on here. Looking at the history of my problems, I had terrible problems with constipation as a child. I think this could have been early signs of the onset. This theory is starting to ring home the more I think about it. Then Bryan says, and to everyone giving this a chance, thank you. I have been thinking in depth nonstop for 1.5 years about VS causes and cures. And like you said, Matt, it does hit home. And then he's responding to Sarah about her saying, hook me up with the diet. And he says, I am buying it and posting the meal plan on here. Don't worry about buying it unless you want clarity. I'm going to post videos on it and whatnot. Okay, so April 25th, Bryan writes, I want to express our struggles through rap. I think people should know. Marcus says, I think this is a really good idea. Please let me know when it's online. Need Help says, if you can make some money from it, maybe you can help with some of the other websites that are coming out. Okay, so Omega says, this is a basic guideline I got from Pharmacopoeia in Santa Rosa. The Yes Food. So it's got a list if you guys want to check that out. If anybody's interested, I'm not going to read them all. The No Foods. So then Bryan says, you can kill Candida with this, but not all toxins. So I recommend trying the detox. I will post something like this soon. And then Omega is responding to where Bryan wrote, you can kill Candida with this, but not all toxins. So I recommend trying the detox. I will post something like this soon. Omega responds, by other toxins, are you also talking about heavy metals, environmental toxins? Bryan says, yes, any toxin like fungus, Candida, etc. I recommend getting rid of it all at once. Then Bryan says, I could have went to Philly for this. April 28th, Bryan says, I know the reason this is happening is because a chemical imbalance caused by something. Your chemicals don't just get imbalanced. That is why I'm doing this diet. This isn't an ad. Sarah says, it says to use antibiotics. Don't some people develop VS after using antibiotics? Matt says, I took antibiotics and steroids, medical reasons, at a young age, so I would be under threat from this theory. Omega says, I have to agree with the above. I was a little disappointed when you jumped around to the Xanax cure after talking about Candida. At that point, some credibility was lost. Not to mention, you have not cured it yourself. Just be careful how you present things. And then Bryan says, I never said Xanax was a cure. I just wanted to know if it actually helped people. Okay, I will do this diet. I just wanted you guys to understand this before I started it. So then Matt says, where's these videos and diet plans then? Unless the book comes from Hong Kong, surely you would have received it by now. He repost the 21st Rogue comment to Bryan, or response to Bryan saying, I'm doing it and I'll make a vlog, so don't worry. They said, right, I'm sure your vlog will be here any day now. And then Matt responds to that saying, no wonder XR didn't like me questioning him or her. Another letdown here, unfortunately, folks. Full of talk, little delivered. So he's talking about Bryan. So April 30th, Bryan says, I've become very deep and determined on goals. It made me smarter. April 30th, does anyone care to make an educated guess? I would really love to finally meet someone else who suffers, as we do, in chat, but I haven't found anyone in DC yet. A fair amount, I'd imagine. I've encountered about 4 people who have visual snow, only VS, and thought it was normal. And Bryan writes, yeah, but a lot of people I know have minor VS. I remember when I had minor VS and it didn't faze me at all. They don't understand. And then J.S. Smith says, yeah, I remember when I could only see it on white walls. Now I see it everywhere. I'm just surprised that some think it's normal, minor or otherwise. Bryan says, yeah, I never thought it normal, but I didn't think it was abnormal, really, because all the tests I ever had came back good. Zithro says, I think a lot of people have it, but don't know it, but we will never know for sure, at least not anytime soon. /face, because for some reason I get a knife. Personally, I always thought it was normal until just last year, and I have had it my entire life. I'm going to skip this Bryan, but Bryan says on May 5th, 2011, he says, I didn't buy the book yet. It's been rough lately. And then he responds to Byron's post about, so Bryan posts, that's the thing. A lot of us are vulnerable to snake oil salesmen because we still know next to nothing about VS. It would be pretty easy for someone to take advantage of vulnerable people in this forum. So sorry, XR, which is Bryan, but I only just saw this thread and every one of your posts read like a sales pitch. The kind of sales pitch that you could use on any kind of forum that discusses health issues. You could replace VS with just about any condition and your post would make sense. Plus, the thread title is a dead giveaway. If you're not trying to prey on vulnerable people for some kind of financial gain, then your posts make even less sense. Yes, I'm accusing you of being a snake oil salesman or woman. If anyone is interested in any kind of detox diet, I am sure Omega 32, who is an actual qualified naturopath, can advise you about this, as she has done on her thread about Candida. And it won't cost you any money because these diets are common knowledge and there is no good reason to spend money on a book like that. Anyone who is actually interested in helping you would not try to sell you something that is commonly available for free on the internet or from your local library. It is easy to kick large holes in something like, I know the cause a cure of visual snow, so I won't bother. What upsets me is that was XR using forum members' vulnerability to make a buck that can only serve to hurt vulnerable members for the simple fact that no one like to be taken advantage of. He or she probably does this on a lot of different health-related forums. We do not have to be polite about protecting our forum from people who would use deception and take advantage. And then Bryan says, he responds to this comment, well, if you were to actually spell my name right, I would take this post seriously. Look at my history. You will see I posted here a while back with some similar questions that you guys came up with. I'm a VS vet. Don't even tell me I don't understand this. For one, VS seems like a false disease, so no salesman would even take this seriously. And then Balance says, incorrect spelling is not good enough. He brings up good points. You avoiding everything he says simply because he missed one letter of your internet forum alias raises more suspicion that he might be correct. So this Balance is talking to Bryan. Bryan is not making friends on this forum. Anyway, Bryan responds, I really believe in this diet, but I sparked the interest in many people so much for Omega to even post a thread about the Candida diet. So I guess I am not failing my purpose. My friend's uncle has given me the diet list soon. It's just been busy. I work too, you know. The diet is specific and you can eat certain foods only. So I will help you guys out. I am getting the information. And then Balance says, you sparked people's interest because you said you knew the cure, not because you came up with something so brilliant. If you had the title say a diet that might help, you would have got very little interest. The only reason you got this interest is because you lied. You lied that you knew the cause and cure and have not delivered anything. I am being harsh, but this thread is absolutely ridiculous. This is going nowhere. Nothing positive is coming from this. Only argument. Can moderators please close this? Byron says, "Does your whole opening is clearly a sales pitch? Either you are a salesperson or you're the victim of one." I'm going to read all that, but the bottom says, okay, so I'm sorry, XR, if you are actually just the victim of a snake oil salesman, but I had to pull you up either way. Why? Easy. Because you are hurting the members of this site by helping somebody who couldn't care less about them. Take the money, and you are using deception to do so. And then Brian says, I wouldn't fall for a scam. That's the difference between me and everyone on here, except you and Matt. So here is a post Brian posted May 12th. I always feel as if I am not there, completely depersonalized. Mentally, I experience fog, lack of comprehension at some times. Feel like my life is a movie, depersonalization, depression, no interest in activity, constant thought of suicide, crazy thoughts, delusions of grandeur, anxiety, poor self-image, poor social skills, no emotion. I feel like nothing has a point to it. When I get home, I am mean to my family. This started when VS did. I felt no emotion. And along with the depersonalization, I can say and do whatever I want with little remorse. Everyone hates me pretty much. I am an asshole. Balance says, you are most definitely not the only one. I used to feel like this to the point of nearly taking drastic measures, which I am so happy I didn't. In life, there are ups and downs, not just with this condition. With having this condition, you have more downs than normal and are harder to cope with these symptoms. But in my experience and a lot of others, after a while, you find coping mechanisms. It isn't something that happens overnight. My progress is like evaluating myself now and looking back 6 months. I've come a long way. Symptoms are still there, but I have learned a lot of things for myself to cope. Now, I can't exactly tell you what these are because it's not something I can explain in words. The only advice I can tell you is to change your attitude. The brain rewires itself due to neuroplasticity, so negative thoughts are just a habit. They can be changed. Takes a long time, but that's life. Sometimes things are hard, but keep on going. And 2, also throw yourself into stressful situations. Now, this sounds counterproductive, but it helps. This is where you will find your coping methods and desensitize yourself to the anxiety that is rather irrational. But also learn how to relax. Meditation, yoga, exercise, doing something you like doing. Find a passion and stick to it. This isn't an easy condition, but it is possible to live with it happy. If I was told this a year and a half ago, I would have said no way. But it is a slow process, but it is possible. Good luck. That's some good advice right there. Balance, good. And for a lot of things. And then Need Help says, trust me, you're not the only one. I have taken the thoughts of suicide even further, but I won't disclose. Try everything before you do anything drastic. I was told this by my angel. She's gone now, but I continue to try. Then Brian responds, thanks a lot, guys. This helped me a lot. I was not sure if it was normal to have depersonalization to my extent, but it is. I will not pursue happiness and do what makes me happy. I'm thinking he probably meant to put, I will pursue happiness. And then, okay, so May 14th, he says, does it? His title is, does VS mental block depersonalization affect driving? And then he says, does it? Ian says, not really, though. I also do not suffer from any kind of DP that I know of, eh? Edit, I also have not driven in a good year and a half, so am I just guessing that my VS will not interfere with my driving? It never did before. So I'm going to forget to read the titles. I'm sorry. So title is Weed and Will It Affect Me? Pattern says, I am young and I want to give weed a try. I was just about ready to do it yesterday, but I changed my mind because I remember a lot of people from this forum saying it affected their snow. Have you smoked weed? Has it affected your snow permanently, temporarily? What other effects did it have? Thanks. By the way, I have almost all the symptoms recorded on the site. Some more that aren't. So Bryan says, if you're worried about the VS, it will get worse. And even if it does get better, I say no, it makes it worse. R. Mill says, people make weed seem like it's going to make you go haywire. It's all good. Nothing really happens. It's all in your head. I smoked every day for 6 years. I'm 21 now. You're good, bro. Skip a little bit more because I realize how much. So title is Vision got sensitive to light and I could almost make out my vision fading. So Bryan's the one that started this one. Bryan says, May 28th, my pupils were going crazy. I could barely look at light. I felt like a film over my vision and it got sensitive to light. I'm guessing he meant film. I felt like a film over my vision and it got sensitive to light. It's like the film made stuff fade out, but not completely. Ever happened to you guys? It also looked to be like a whitish shaded circle in my vision, outlining the light that I saw in my vision. This is still going on now, sort of. Prism says, sounds like a halo effect, just very exaggerated. This almost sounds closer to a transient migraine aura or a process similar affecting the optic chiasm occipital gray matter. I do not think this has anything to do with a physical film over your eyes. I have had similar happen, but on a regular basis, and I don't believe as acute as what you describe. I do have unstable pupillary reflex, which is basically the pupils dilating and constricting constantly. If you look very close, you could see this happen in those with this. It is generally caused by low aldosterone and related to adrenal fatigue, which is another theory that could be investigated with VS altogether, given the relation to stress, anxiety, and acute stressful events. We're getting there. We're getting there. Okay, so this title is ECT. Prism says, I agree with all the advice given. ECT is massively overkill for this. You would be better served by being hit in the head with a baseball, quite hard. I've seen patients during and immediately after ECT therapy. My general consensus is it is ineffective, and what effect it does have is due to damage done to the brain. And patients who seem to have depression relieved didn't quite realize they were dissociated from it, and their personality altered. The good side, they weren't aware they were this way, which is miserable. But objectively, they were close to slobbering on themselves and not due to medication. After several days, they would recover some form of composure, yet they often reported loss of short-term memory and in testing couldn't remember some long-term things tested pre-treatment. The memories long-term are generally recovered. The short-term is not. And as has been said, it can definitely cause short-term memory problems at the least. All right, I'm going to skip this. So Bryan says, it sounds like you are on mind-altering medication. Need help? When I was on Topamax, I did crazy crap that I should have died from. Wonder what he did. Interesting. Okay. So this title is Drop in Blood Pressure, Fainting, Cause Great Increase in Snow. What does this tell us? So Spleen Harvester says, Spleen Harvester? Wow, what a name. I have a vasovagal syncope syndrome. Have never properly fainted, but come extremely close. It increases my snow manyfold, but in similar style to that of a head rush. So Bryan responds, well, it seems whenever we eat unhealthy things, our symptoms worsen, mostly mental symptoms. Like for me, my tinnitus and snow increase when I eat junk. I think it is related to a chemical imbalance because our vessels are going haywire for some reason, and the fact food influences it may mean something. Also, changes in blood pressure will obviously release chemicals and signals in order to get it back on track, thus interfering with our chemicals even more, thus an increase in VS. Your blood vessels can't just be irritated for the sake of being irritated. As you said, migraines and VS are both almost identical. It is proven doing a detox diet takes migraines away. It removes the source that causes the chemicals and signals of the brain to go insane. Blood flow is influenced by these, thus preventing blood vessels in the visual cortex from getting irritated. Okay, title is Glad Forum is still getting used. George Farmer says, hello, glad to see this forum I started about 10 years ago is still getting good bit of use and is helping folks. I am doing fine. VS about the same and have learned to tune it out most of the time. I will always think that there is some link between VS and tinnitus, as I have both and did a poll early on that showed very high percentage of people with both conditions, sort of interference to both the visual and auditory systems for some unknown reason. Perhaps worth a new discussion here. Best to all, George Farmer. Okay, title is Ginkgo biloba, interesting reaction. Oh, this is just where he said, yes, vulture, same here. He's agreeing with talking about sometimes, only in the summer on the hottest days, for some odd reason, when I stand up from sitting on the floor, I'll get a major head rush. Dizziness, of course. But the odd thing is my vision goes nuts. Purple static clouds kind of come in from the edges and take over all but the very center of my vision, which gets somewhat distorted. It only lasts for 2 to 3 seconds, but it's rather annoying. The title, Can You Relate? This is Bryan saying, he's the one that started this discussion, July 4th, 2011. He says, I've had this horrible depersonalization go on in my life for almost 2 years. I often find myself making simple human interactions, but it is as if I'm playing a role-playing game, such as Oblivion. I can see what is going on, I'm slightly into it, but I can pause the game and focus on my real life. In this case, my life is the game, and my old self can be reached by pausing the game, but how? I often think of things that humans do, things I have done my whole life. I feel like an organic sack of meat with no self-worth, as I am starting to view everyone as this. Everything I have ever done making no sense. How did things get this way? How am I wearing this shirt? And who decided that humans shall wear shirts like this? Are we all just advanced animals with possession? Or is there more? More that I can't see? I can't connect. I view everything as I would if I was playing Oblivion, pointless and full of nothing, out of reality. I am moving out of my house. My last holidays were already lived, but where was I? As my family group hugs and celebrates, I am stuck in this void of nothing, feeling completely no emotion, feeling nothing. I feel dirty, like there is dirt inside of my head, my mind. I am always dizzy and confused. I feel no self-worth. I'm intelligent, but I feel the opposite. I say things I don't mean. The last holiday in my house, the house I grew up in, the house I once contributed to, the house I once felt at home in, is past. As I hug my family, I look into their faces. I see nothing. It is like I am looking at a video game, but less. I feel less than mentally damaged. Maybe I'll highlight this while I read the rest. That's what I should have done. But anyway, okay. I feel less than mentally damaged. It is like I have severe brain damage. I'm stuck in the depths of my mind where I have to constantly battle my demons. Am I here or am I fake? I feel myself slipping away. I hear screams faintly, but I constantly battle away from it. What if I let go? Where would I be? Would I ever come back to reality? I try to remember where I originated from, but I can't. I barely remember my childhood. I often fear being 80 years old, alone, and having faint memories of my parents, everything I missed out on. I think about my father. What a good man he is. How I treat him like dirt because I have this condition, and I can't take it. I might spiral out of control and lose myself in the void. I can't let it all go. All of these regrets I predict for my future self. All of these thoughts of remorse. I got this when I was in my stage of discovery. Now I look in the mirror and I see this sickly, tired, useless, and stupid man in the mirror. He is a complete disgrace. He doesn't even deserve to live. I remember when I was 15, I would wander alone at 2 a.m. Everything was so generic. Nowhere felt like home. I saw things that were not there, a different reality. I felt eerie and alone. I died during those nights. I felt like a criminal. But where was my record? I can't talk without flinching now. I used to be this healthy blonde-haired boy with blue eyes, and in a few years I have darker hair and darker eyes. Half the body weight. Where did I leave off? I try to sleep. I try to clear my head, but the pressure won't go away. The pain and depression won't leave. Being me is this horrible disease that I was given. I think of this as I succumb to sleep, but I see a large intensity of black, yellow, white fuzz. It makes my mind fizzle, and I can barely keep in the bounds of reality. It is as if the ringing in my ears and the fuzz in my vision is simply all of the demons in my head mocking me. I fall asleep, but I wake up quickly to bloody screams. Is any of this here? Am I brain damaged? No? Then why am I like this? I have these thoughts all in my head. I search for someone to relate to me. Everyone looks down upon me. No one can relate. As I try to read, suddenly my eyes look right through the words when I look up. I see blue dots near the center of my vision. When I feel slightly calm, it gets hard to breathe, and I see bright dots in my vision. Nothing I do is enjoyable. I am blank. I have no opinion. I have no emotion. I have nothing. Can you relate? Wow. Pretty intense there, huh? Okay, so that's pretty interesting post by Bryan. Okay, let's see what else. So the title is, If You Take Plaquenil, You Must Read This. And then Bryan says, it is a very rare condition caused by the medicine. It is unrelated to visual snow, though. Title, My VS sometimes gets worse for a while. So July 6, 2011, Bryan writes, I see like silver balls, silver VS that is exaggerated for like a while. And nobody else responds. VS has improved. July 8th, Bryan writes, I randomly got this increase in VS. Then I felt like this pressure was released. In the circumstance that I am in light, my VS is not even there, and it is less visible on a plane wall. Ian says, wow, that's pretty cool. To what do you attribute this to? Bryan says, I started treatment for hypothyroidism, and also I am exercising very heavily and eating a lot of very good stuff. Title, What We All Have Seen at One Point, Bryan writes, July 21st, 2011. Sometimes when we move from a sitting position to a standing one, our VS turns really bright and intense in comparison to the usual. Today I got up and it got so bad that I almost fell and my heart pounded intensely. I couldn't see for that 0.8 seconds completely. Memi says, yes, that happens to me. Title, I simply don't want to live anymore. December 19th, 2011, Bryan writes, I have had this for over 2 years. I have had it bad in every single way. Not one night have I slept normal since I feel like I am trapped here. I have been able to block it out for a while now, but I realize what is wrong, and it suddenly becomes unbelievable. I am desensitized in every way now. People say that these are supposed to be the years that I enjoy and cherish. Well, I can't say I will cherish these days. Balance says, I feel the same. It's horrible most of the time. I've turned to benzos, opiates, and alcohol a lot. I do admit I do enjoy my life in some aspects, but I'm usually under the influence, which sucks. I don't think that there's a point in giving up, though. I'm going to stick around regardless. Don't get me wrong. I've been suicidal and nearly taken drastic measures, but in those times I try to tell myself it's chemical and will pass. I may not feel all that much better, but attitudes need adjusting in regards to this condition. Have you ever done any treatments, medications? I would not recommend turning to any substances I have mentioned. They offer minimal temporary relief. I'm not the best to offer guidance here, just a bit of my experience. Hopefully someone can chime in with some better advice, but you aren't the only one feeling like this. I hope you could find some relief. Concentrate on things in life you really do want to do. Sounds cliche, but it takes your mind off things. Hold in there, mate. Bryan says, you are feeling the same way. Makes me feel like someone is there. Thanks for responding to me. And I have taken migraine pills. Actually, every effective migraine pill on the market, and I ended up overdosing nearly 2 times. Off those meds, I wouldn't consider doing that again, though. Title, I Know the Cause, Cure of Visual Snow. December 20th, 2011. Bryan writes, I haven't tried it yet. I honestly don't think I can do it. But when I was on a little 5-day trial period, some issues did go away, but that could be because I stopped drinking coffee. And honestly, 21st level, you are a troll in every way. You are just upset about your personal issues and have to be a complete jerk to everyone who looks for hope. Go away. Baby Star says, it probably won't work for me. I have visual snow for as long as I remember. I don't have most of the symptoms stated either. Those that I have, I believe, aren't connected to visual snow since they were absent when I was young. Title, is this a VS thing? Visual symptoms from coughing. Bryan writes, yes, I got those as well. Well, I used to when I first started working out. Now I don't unless I'm sprinting. Walter says, okay, good then. I got over that cold weeks ago, but the cough still hasn't gotten any better. Annoying that I guess it takes a while to get all the slime out. Bryan says, yeah, it seems that visual snow actually assimilates to the new things that occur. You have to just train your body to be used to physical pressure, and you'll never see this again when you cough. We're getting there, guys. Almost done. All right. Okay. Topamax or sodium valproate? Bryan says, I went crazy on Topamax. Okay, I think we're on our last one here. Come to terms with VS. Bryan writes, February 20th, 2012. I have just accepted my visual snow finally. I don't even feel the need to stay away from the forum. It doesn't scare me anymore. Anyone else come to terms? I feel like coming to terms could be a bad thing, though. All right, guys, that's all. Yeah, that's it, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Pretty interesting stuff, really. It could be kind of an insight and look into why he did this and why he spared Dylan's life, if you think about it, and, why he was feeling some of this. And some of the symptoms that he goes over almost is like overlaps with a personality disorder. Let me see if I could find what I'm talking about that really made me I think it's this one right here, where he says, no emotion, crazy thoughts, delusions of grandeur. Then the no emotion is what puts me into thinking a personality disorder. I guess, a lot of this stuff does overlap when it comes to some of these mental disorders or personality disorders. Let me see here. And even like schizophrenic, I feel like some of the hallucinations he's having, I feel like those could overlap with schizophrenia. Like maybe even narcissistic personality disorder. You have paranoid personality disorder, schizotypal, antisocial, borderline, histrionic, narcissistic, avoidant. Feeling empty, emotionally disconnected. He even mentions that, feeling empty, difficulty managing negative feelings without self-harming. So odd behavior, difficulty maintaining stable and close relationships, especially with partners, children, professional carers. Sometimes periods of losing contact with reality. He talks about depersonalization. What else? Like almost feeling like he's in a game, like he's not in reality. So I just think there's some overlap with a lot of these. Cluster B for sure. I would say more by just reading this basic over like this. I know you have to look, it's more to it than this, but I would see more like this than this one. The schizoid. But you got cluster B, which no, I guess borderline, it doesn't seem like much. I would say maybe narcissistic. He definitely has some of those traits from what he said. So cluster B, let's see what cluster C. No. I would say more, yeah, cluster B. Yeah, more cluster B. Cluster A or cluster B. Even though I know he said supposedly he has OCD, it came out. I don't know where that came from. And so you can see that's in cluster C, the OCD personality disorder. So I don't know. But as far as like some of the symptoms he listed on this forum, I think they go along with more A or B. I'm sure VS, I'm sure he does have VS, but I think he could have an overlap of something more going on. Let's just look up his in general, because those were actually the personality ones, but let's just see. Schizophrenia, the main, let's see, symptoms. Insomnia, anxiety, depression. So he's got anxiety, he's got depression, he's got hallucinations. Probably emotions that do not fit the given context. But the reason I think he's got an overlap of personality disorder too, because he's got like the no emotion, he said, which would be a maybe narcissistic, maybe psychopath. I don't know. Sociopath. I would say more psycho than socio. I don't know why I'm thinking if it was one, it would be more psycho, but who knows? I'm sure hopefully they'll get him evaluated, but the only thing that now he's like in jail, the evaluation isn't probably gonna be as accurate. Like they're not gonna well, hopefully for research they will wanna get a pretty good read on him. Positive psychotic symptoms, hallucinations, delusions, incorrect perceptions, hearing voices, extreme paranoia. Yeah. I don't I just think he probably has something else going on, which all this can explain, what made him feel the urge or the need to commit these murders. And I'm not saying that anything's an excuse, but all right, guys, let me know what you guys think. Chat with you soon. Bye.